Iran's deputy foreign minister says Tehran wants to continue the diplomatic process with Washington if the United States is serious about respecting their agreement and ensures Israel abides by the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. We are ready to move forward step by step if the other party demonstrates the same seriousness, Saeed Khatibzadeh told Al Jazeera Arabic in an interview on Friday.
One Palestinian child has been killed every day on average for more than 8 months in Gaza since a so-called ceasefire with Israel was announced. The United Nations Children's Agency says UNICEF describes the truce as a cruel and deadly illusion as Israel continues to attack the besieged enclave.
What's the most cliched possible gift you can give a relative? A digital photo frame, displaying a rotating slideshow of family photos. Now, Aura has completely refreshed this product space with its gorgeous Aura ink frame, which uses e-ink to create a display that doesn't even look digital. Digital frames have always been so popular, yet mostly disappointing, because there's an undeniable allure to the idea of them. It feels like magic to imagine hanging artwork on your wall that you can change depending on your mood. In practice, these devices usually look clunky. You need to plug them in and figure out how to hide a bulky cord. And does anyone even want another bright screen in their home anyway? This problem was already on the Aura founders' minds when they started the company 10 years ago, but colour e-ink wasn't feasible until now to use in a digital frame.
Norway's government says it plans to ban all trade with Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory and has announced consultation on a proposal for a new bill prohibiting such transactions. The Israeli settlements in Palestine are in breach of international law. Minister of Foreign Affairs Espen Barth Eide said in a statement on Friday.
A 68-year-old pétanque player has died after allegedly being hit with a metal ball during a dispute with a rival team in the French Atlantic resort of Mimizan. The man was reportedly struck after an argument broke out between one team that regularly plays on the beach and another that plays in town. Israel and Hezbollah have agreed a ceasefire, a US official says, following intense Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon that the government said killed 47 people. The agreement followed concerns that continued clashes, which also saw Hezbollah kill 4 Israeli soldiers in Lebanon, would undermine the deal to end the war between the US and Iran.
17 medics have died from Ebola in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, as the death toll surpasses 200 in an outbreak tearing through a health system already weakened by years of conflict, displacement and chronic organization. WHO official confirmed the death toll on Friday and said that 75 healthcare workers had contracted the virus since Congolese authorities declared the outbreak on May 15.
British Transport Police are responding to reports of a collision involving 2 trains in an area north of London, with media outlets saying the major incident had resulted in multiple injuries. We're responding to reports of a collision involving 2 trains in the Bedford area, referring to a market town about 56 miles, 90-kilometre force, said 90 kilometres north of the capital.
In Israel, there is fury from government ministers over the agreement United States President Donald Trump has signed with Iran. US Vice President J.D. Vance offered a sharp rebuke in response.
British Transport Police said on Friday that it was responding to reports of a train collision north of London, with other emergency services saying they were attending to the incident amid media reports of injuries. We're responding to reports a collision involving 2 trains in the Bedford area, the Transport Police Force said on X, referring to a market town around 56 miles 90 kilometres north of the capital. The National Cybercrime Investigation Agency, NCCI, has arrested 5 people and 4 workers at mobile phone franchises for their alleged involvement in an illegal SIM issuance network operating in Lahore. The raid was carried out on the instructions of Muhammad Ali Wazim after the Pakistan Telecommunication Authority lodged a complaint and gathered technical evidence linking the suspects to the scheme. Investigators.
Train services on the Attock-Mari-Indus-Multan railway section were temporarily suspended on Friday after heavy rainfall triggered a landslide between Jamaat and Chab railway stations in Attock's Jan Tehsil in Punjab, blocking the track and leaving passengers stranded. According to an official of the track maintenance department, mud and debris fell onto the track following the downpour, prompting authorities to suspend train services as a precautionary measure. One train was reportedly stranded near tunnel number 129, while the 202 up passenger train was halted at Jamaat railway station.
The US government says it will stop funding programs in South Africa intended to tackle the spread of HIV and AIDS, linking the decision to the government's alleged failure to protect the white minority Afrikaner community. South Africa's health ministry responded by saying that though it had not been informed of this decision, it had long been working on a self-reliance plan.
2 men have been jailed over a series of arson attacks targeting property belonging to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The pair, Ukrainian-born Roman Lavrinovich, 22, and Stanislav Karpiuk, 27, were offered money to carry out the attacks by a Russian-speaking figure using the name El Money via messaging app Telegram, according to prosecutors. Artificial intelligence education now starts at the age of 6 in China. The Ministry of Education has rolled out new guidelines to teach AI at every grade level. For President Xi Jinping, AI is a priority. Will the toddlers of today be the tech titans of the future? This is a story from the archives. This originally aired on September 18, 2025. None of the dates, titles or other references from that time have been changed.
Diplomatic row between United States President Donald Trump and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has escalated, with Italy's top diplomat cancelling an upcoming visit to the US. At issue is Trump's claim that Meloni begged him for a photograph during the Group of Seven, G7, meeting in France earlier in the week.
Over the last several years, fusion power has gone from the butt of jokes, always a decade away, to an increasingly tangible and tantalizing technology that has drawn investors off the sidelines. The technology may be challenging to master and expensive to build today, but fusion promises to harness the nuclear reaction that powers the sun to generate nearly limitless energy here on Earth. If startups are able to complete commercially viable fusion power plants, then they have the potential to upend trillion-dollar markets.
Capital Development Authority, CDA, has abolished more than 20,900 vacant and redundant positions as part of the federal government's right-sizing initiative aimed at reducing costs and improving efficiency in public sector organizations. The decision was approved during the 7th CDA board meeting held on June 8 and formally notified by the Human Resource Development Directorate on June 11.
United States Vice President J.D. Vance is poised to take on his biggest role yet on the international stage as President Donald Trump's chief negotiator to end the 3-month war with Iran, a moment that could shape Vance's prospects as a White House successor. The two nations agreed to a provisional peace agreement on Wednesday that suspended hostilities but left core issues unresolved, deferring decisions on Iran's nuclear program, its support for regional groups, and the economically vital Strait of Hormuz to 60 days of talks. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, following a phone conversation with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, said the two leaders agreed that the next phase of Iran-US negotiations must be guided by a firm commitment to dialogue and diplomacy and vigilance against any attempt to undermine the peace process. On Thursday, A long-awaited peace deal was finally signed between the United States and Iran after a preliminary agreement was reached between the two sides earlier in the week, heralding an end to the bitter animosity that has afflicted the Middle East for months. Italy reacted angrily on Friday after reported comments by US President Donald Trump mocking Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, with the foreign minister cancelling a planned US visit. Meloni said she was frankly stunned by Trump's comments to Italian channel La 7.
As a barrage of Ukrainian drones descended on Moscow in the early hours of Thursday, Russia's response appeared more like a scramble and less like a well-planned strategic defence. Videos from the streets of the capital showed glimpses of the ensuing chaos. Footage verified by CNN and analysed by experts shows soldiers firing portable, shoulder-mounted air defence systems from a busy highway as traffic cautiously passes by. People run for safety as a drone, probably down by Russian air defences, plummets into a building in a sprawling marketplace.
The embankment was barely a sliver, wedged between lanes of traffic in the southern town of San Jose del Guaviare, Colombia. But on a recent June evening, in spite of the drizzle and dark, the grassy strip was packed with a jubilant chaos.
Months of Ukrainian strikes on Russia's oil infrastructure have led to widespread fuel rationing, with Russian President Vladimir Putin now unable to mask the war's economic effects. The Russian petrol shortages come amid other good news for Ukraine, which during the past week garnered €4 billion, 4.6 billion new military aid commitments from its allies for anti-ballistic operotals, long-range artillery and unmanned systems.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has restrained himself from openly displaying his opposition to the Memorandum of Understanding between Iran and the United States. But looking to the positions of Israelis from across the political spectrum and the military's actions in Lebanon, the picture is clear. Israel is angry and Israel is worried. Netanyahu has always been careful with US President Donald Trump, knowing that his occasional criticisms of Israeli policy have been coupled with allowing Israel to pursue many of its military and political goals, even as the rest of the world isolates the country. The war with Iran was case in point. After years of US refusal, Netanyahu had finally convinced a US president to jointly attack Iran.
Germany versus Ivory Coast. What FIFA World Cup 2026 Group E match where Toronto Stadium, Toronto, Canada, when Saturday, 4 a.m. 20 Canada. How to follow. Keep up with all updates on Al Jazeera Sport, one of the most mouth-watering matches in the second round of games in the World Cup 2026 group stage sees four-time champions, Germany facing a talented Ivory Coast outfit in Toronto on Saturday evening.
Israel has continued to attack Lebanon after the new ceasefire with Hezbollah took effect, raising fears that Tel Aviv is trying to wreck the fragile agreement tied to wider efforts to end Middle East hostilities. On Friday, officials and diplomats from the United States and the Gulf separately told news agencies that the two sides agreed that a ceasefire would start at 4 p.m. local time, 1300 GMT.
As India searches for a homegrown contender in the global artificial intelligence race, billionaire Mukesh Ambani is positioning Reliance Industries as a national champion, rolling out AI services for phone calls, mobile apps and connected homes. At its annual shareholder meeting on Friday, the Mumbai-based conglomerate announced GeoCall Agent, an AI assistant that can join phone calls to transcribe conversations, generate summaries and perform tasks such as booking cabs, ordering food and making reservations. The service, which can be activated by saying "Hey Geo," is expected to launch later this year for Geo's more than 500 million users.
Loading the player, just as last week was ending, the US government forced Anthropic to pull its two newest models, Fable 5 and Mythos 5, citing national security concerns after Amazon researchers allegedly found a way to bypass Fable 5's guardrails.
Adobe is adding AI assistants to Photoshop, Premiere, and several other Creative Cloud applications to help users complete repetitive multi-step tasks more quickly. Users can describe the result they want, and the software can handle tasks such as organizing footage, resizing images, preparing layouts, and producing rough video cuts.